All right, let's check out the California weather forecast. We've been looking at this over the last few days, and the big thing that we're keeping an eye on is the potentially multiple storms coming in this weekend. So I'm interested to see how the models have changed, even from when we looked at it yesterday. With last week's storm, we saw them changing every single day. So far, it's been pretty consistent, predicting decent rainfall as we get into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe even Monday, maybe even farther after that as well. And then also towards the end of this video, I also want to dive into California water to see how much rain we've picked up this year, how are our reservoirs doing, how's our snowpack doing, is there any need to have concern there, or will the storms this week pretty much put an end to any concerns we might have? So yeah, stay tuned towards the end for that. That's clicking through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday, it looks like it's still coming down. Wednesday, Thursday. So it looks like overall very active pattern coming to California. I'm not going to dive too deep into these totals just yet, but I always like to get a snapshot still showing 1 to 3 inches down for Southern California. So the models have actually bumped up since we looked at them yesterday. And I'd say that's a similar story for just the first glance at Northern California, all the way up to 7 inches in the northwestern parts of the state, and then around the Bay Area and the Santa Cruz Mountains, seeing a bit more of the yellow than I believe we were seeing yesterday, which represents more than 3 to 4 inches of rain. And then similar story for the Sacramento Valley as well. So based on that, seems like the models are still kind of holding true that we got some decent rain headed towards us. Now let's see if we have some decent snow as well. Not much till Friday, then we start to see the storms come in. Looks like early on it's mostly just up for Northern California, and then as we get into the middle of next week, that's where it looks to spread out a bit more for the central and then the southern Sierra. So purple and orange, that's going to be maybe 2 to 3 feet of snow there. Now I think what we want to do is we'll just start where we always do. National Weather Service, see if there's any warnings out there right now. California looks pretty clear at the moment. What do we have down there in Southern California? Air quality alert, dense fog advisory. Yeah, nothing of too much concern there. But around the Bay Area through the Central Coast, we have this hydrologic outlook. Now, you might not know what that is. I think it's the level down from flood advisory. So maybe it's when they're predicting some flood advisories or flood warnings will pop up in the future, it maybe starts out as a hydrologic outlook. So for that it looks like moderate to heavy rainfall will lead to moderate and potentially rapid rises along area streams and creeks. And I do have some of the river charts here. I was looking at them to see if there's any forecasted river flooding. Haven't seen the river models jump up too much for this weekend, but I only looked at a couple, so maybe some other rivers were showing some flood danger. Interested to read, we'll just skip all the way to the bottom here. Rainfall totals will range from 1.5 to 3 inches across most areas. So that's a decent amount of rain right there, with 3 to 5 inches expected over the North Bay, locally up to 5 to 7 inches over favored peaks and higher terrain of the North Bay, and 4 to 6 inches in the Santa Cruz and Santa Lucia Mountains. So those numbers have bumped up even from when we were looking at them yesterday. It's probably important to know the timing on that, though. That could be for the next week, could be for the next 2 weeks, but when we look at when right here, it looks like that's Friday through Monday. So that's a pretty good amount of rain to be picking up over a few days. So that's why, not a big surprise, it says localized ponding of water, and just chance for some flooding out there. So Friday through Monday is what they're looking at right there. Interestingly, not seeing anything pop up in the Sierra just yet. They might be waiting on that. So first, let's look at Friday night. Moderate rain with gusty southwesterly winds. At that point, San Francisco, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. Same for Santa Cruz. Looks like it tapers off pretty significantly as you head south. Napa, 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And then rain begins Friday and continues into Friday night. Heavier rain will occur in the coastal ranges of the North Bay. Lesser amounts in the rain-shadowed valleys. Yeah, that pretty much is how it always goes. But then we look at Saturday to early next week, and just look at the maps right there and look at the comparison. Light to dark green, which means kind of light to moderate rainfall. And then that is Saturday to early next week. So obviously it is over a longer time period, so that would allow you to pick up more rainfall. But we're seeing a lot of places in the orange to even red, which represents at least 3 to 4 inches. So once again, it's saying moderate rain with gusty southwesterly winds. It's interesting it's saying moderate rain. So even though we're picking up a large amount, maybe it is spaced over a long enough period of time that it's not just one front that comes through, drops all of the rain all at once, which would lead to more flooding because then your soils can't absorb all that. Whereas if it's moderate rain over a long period of time, that could be the best way to pick up this rain because we could absorb a little bit more of it. And seems to be, when we've been looking at the models, it seems to be that's the way this is going to unfold. So yeah, it's saying pretty much the same thing there. And then looks like maybe more rain. Oh, this is observed rain from Tuesday and Wednesday. Mount Tam picked up 1.24, San Jose 0.19, Monterey 0.2. I like that they put the observed in there. A lot of times they skip that. Forecast discussion. It's good to be able to see that, to see how accurate the forecasts were. If you don't look back and see what you actually got, then you don't really know if your forecasts were on point or not, and then how you could change your forecasting in the future to be more accurate. So this is just a quick summary. We're just going to read these first 2 sentences here. Dry and partially cloudy through Thursday. So if you have things that you need to do outdoor, tomorrow is probably the day to do them if you didn't do them today. Because once Friday comes around, the rain's going to start, and then it looks like it could be continuing for multiple days, maybe even into the middle of next week. Although we haven't really looked at the timing just yet. Next rain systems come through Friday and Sunday with periods of moderate to heavy rain. So it's interesting they've broken up to Friday and Sunday, not Friday through Sunday. And when we were looking at the models yesterday, Sunday did look to be the bigger of the 2 storms, so I'm interested to see if that's still the case. Before we get into the maps, let's check out the Sacramento office. Okay, they're showing 1 to 2 feet of snow potential. Rain forecast, yeah, it's pretty similar to what we've already seen. I'm really here for the summary. And, they gave us a pretty hefty one. So we'll just try to read this real quick. Patchy, dense morning fog will be possible Thursday morning across the southern Sacramento and northern San Joaquin valleys, with otherwise quiet weather anticipated through midday Friday. And then the potential for periodic precipitation impacts then increases late Friday through the weekend and into early next week. Widespread valley and foothills rain and high elevation snow will be possible, with heaviest precipitation expected late Sunday into Monday. All right, glad that we read that. That gives us some pretty good details right there. And it gives us a good idea of what we should look at when it comes to our maps here. So I'm going to change this forecast back so we can look further in time. Yeah, further, not farther. Farther is if you throw the ball farther, but you go further in time. So that's going back to Wednesday, Thursday, not much going on. And then maybe some prefrontal showers already early Friday morning. But it doesn't look like the real system arrives until Friday afternoon. That's at about 4 p.m. on Friday. You see the heavy rainfall showing up with that yellow right there. One thing I notice right off the bat is it looks like it's coming more from the southwest. So that would typically mean that it's going to be a warmer system, which means you end up getting more rainfall and less snow because it's warmer. So then your snow levels bump up. So this system looks like it's coming in from this direction. You think down here, that's going to be where your warmer air is, closer towards the tropics. Whereas a lot of our previous systems were coming down from up here. So they were bringing in colder air. And then that was why we were picking up a ton of, or I shouldn't say a ton of snow, but a decent amount of snow up in the Sierra. But then we weren't actually getting that much rain in the Bay Area and Central Coast. So this almost looks like it's going to be the opposite of a lot of the recent storms we've had recently that were really cold. This one looks to be coming in from a more southerly direction, which should mean it's going to be a bit warmer. And you can already kind of see that looking at how much rain you get. Doesn't look like the snow's as widespread. So this is now getting into Friday evening. Still seeing some heavy rainfall there. Then it moves up into the Sierra. We got some snow up there, but it doesn't look that significant in terms of snow. You notice more purple than blue, whereas with the cold systems, all of this was pretty much blue to kind of the dark blue, which represents the heavy rainfall or heavy snowfall. Then this is what's interesting. It looks like it just continues through Saturday. So even though that initial front moves through on Friday afternoon into Friday evening, watch how the rain just continues. That's all the way into Saturday at 7 p.m., Saturday 10 p.m. It doesn't look like it's that significant, I'd say, throughout the day Saturday. Maybe some significant snow, heavy rain up in Northern California. But in terms of the Bay Area, Central Coast, Central Valley, looks like it's mostly light on Saturday. But then we see the next system start to come in. That's Sunday at 7 a.m. First little heavy rain starts showing up. And then Sunday, late in the day, just like the Sacramento office was saying, that's what it looks like. So that's, I would say, the bigger of the two storms just off first glance right there. And it looks that way in terms of snow as well. You see some of that dark blue to even that purple color right there. That represents very heavy snowfall. And I notice how long the heavy rain continues. So that's 1 p.m. Sunday, 4 p.m. Sunday, 7 p.m. Sunday, 10 p.m. Sunday. You're just continually seeing that yellow to orangish color around the Bay Area down to the Central Coast. And then that's all the way into early Monday morning. Looks like it starts to taper off throughout Monday. But yeah, Sunday afternoon into early Monday morning looks like there's a lot of heavy rainfall. Then maybe another system Tuesday. I'm not really even going to look at that just yet because I think we have enough going on. So it looks like there's two systems. One comes in Friday, one comes in Sunday, and Sunday looks like the bigger of the two. I'm not going to spend too much time breaking down the exact timing, like 4 p.m. versus 7 p.m., because by the time Sunday comes around, I can guarantee the timing will shift in some way. Don't know if it'd be earlier or later, but it doesn't do much good kind of spending a lot of time on that early. So let's see what we've picked up by Friday night. So that's by Friday at 10 p.m. San Francisco, half an inch. Chico, 0.8. Sacramento, 0.4. Then that's 1 a.m. on Saturday. So it looks like starting to see more of that rainfall pile up Friday evening. Then let's go, I want to go to, so through Saturday night. So this is before the larger system comes on Sunday. That's what we've seen. Chico, 2 inches. Sacramento, half an inch. San Francisco, 0.7. Santa Rosa, 1.3. San Jose, 0.6. Now let's go through Sunday and see how much we've picked up. Santa Rosa 3.5, San Francisco 2, San Jose 1.4, Chico 3.6, Sacramento 1.6. So yeah, I can't really do all the math off the top of my head, but it seems like Sunday is the bigger of the storms, and then it does still trickle throughout early Monday morning, it looks like, as of right now. So just going all the way into midweek next week, so about a week from now, that's how much rain we could have picked up across California. So maybe that'll get us closer towards our averages. And I would say it's good to see it's coming in two systems as opposed to all of that coming down at once. Now I'm interested to see what happens up in the mountains because it does look like it's a warmer system, which means there wouldn't be as much snowfall. So let's go to what's fallen through Friday and Saturday. Not much for the southern Sierra. You get some pink and purple there. That'd be over a foot, which is decent. And And then little orange up in Northern California, which would be more than 2 feet. And then the Sunday storm definitely looks to be the bigger of the two in terms of not only rain, which we already looked at, but snow as well. That's where all the way through the Southern Sierra, you see the purple, even some orange, so more than 2 to 3 feet of snow. That'll most likely lead to some impact. So first glance, it looks like Sunday is definitely the day to watch. Now what we can do is check out, this gives us a better view of the Central Coast and then going down into Southern California as well. So let's go to the timing. Nothing Thursday. Little rain starts earlier in the day Friday, but then it started to see more of the moderate to heavy stuff come in Friday afternoon into Friday evening. It's actually very similar timing for both systems. It seems like you have a little rain earlier in the day, and then as you get late afternoon and into the evening, that's when the heavier stuff starts to come down. And then Southern California starts seeing a little something. That's 1 a.m. on Saturday. Hopefully it's done by, or hopefully it hasn't started much by your Friday commute. If you're driving home from work on Friday, stuck in that LA traffic, looks like the rain's pretty close at that point. So we may need to watch that. That could lead to some accidents and some traffic there. Overall, though, I'd say it looks light to moderate for Southern California. You're not seeing as much of the yellow down here. Right when I say that, I click. That's 1 a.m. on Sunday. So then that first system moves off, and then the next system arrives, and this one looks to be bigger. That right there makes sense why our Southern California totals kind of jumped up compared to when we were looking at the models yesterday. It looks like there is more of a southerly component to this. The SoCal map didn't look like that yesterday. That's some heavy rain coming in. What time is that? So that's going to be, that's Sunday 4 p.m., Sunday 7, Sunday 10, Monday 1 a.m., heavy rain, Southern California, Monday 4 a.m., and then looks like it's still going in throughout the day Monday. So that is typical with these storms up to the north. It looked like things kind of tapered off by Sunday night and early Monday morning. But then usually these systems kind of work their way south. So then more of the heavy rain continues for Southern California as we get into Monday afternoon. Again, though, we're clicking a pretty far ways off in the forecast at this point, so I could almost guarantee the exact timing will change, but that's what the models are showing as of right now. So interested to see our totals. Let's go through the Friday, Saturday system first. LA 0.3, San Diego 0.3, Salinas 0.6, Bakersfield 0.4, Santa Maria 1.1. So not much. Now let's go through the Sunday, Monday system. Then San Diego's up to 3 inches. So that's quite a jump from where the numbers were yesterday. Los Angeles 1.5, Santa Maria 2.1, Salinas 2.3. So I'd say there's even a larger difference between the Friday and the Sunday storm for Southern California than the difference that we were seeing for Northern California. And then let's see snow. Total snowfall. All right, clicking through. Nothing Thursday, then Friday, Saturday. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's too much Friday, Saturday. But then as we get into that Sunday, Monday, that's where you start to see some of the purple show up in the Southern Sierra. A little purple down here in Southern California, which represents more than 1 to potentially 2 feet of snow. So yeah, I'm glad we looked at Southern California. Sometimes I skip it because Southern California doesn't have as much weather usually, but it looks like the recent models have trended higher in terms of rain and snow totals for the Southern Sierra and then rain down through Southern California. Now let's check out winds. I want to see, based on, and what we can do is actually look at where these storms are coming from. So there's the low. This is the high that's been blocking a lot of our storms and pushing them up to the north. So in order for these systems to come through, this high must go somewhere because it's almost been like playing defense on a lot of the storms recently. So there's the low. That looks like pretty significant low right there. And then as we get into, let's just click all the way to Friday afternoon, it starts to move closer towards California. And you can see how there is a bit more of a southerly component to this one. So remember when we looked at the maps, the rain seemed to be moving in from the southwest more than some of the recent systems that were moving straight down from the north, bringing a lot more cold air and a lot more snowfall. This one, if you track the winds right here, it'd be picking up moisture and then pushing it in to California right there. But not just moisture, some warmer air as well. So that's the first system. Moves in. Maybe some windy conditions out there. That's 37 mile per hour gusts for the north coast. Up in the Sierra, 30 mile per hour gusts. Doesn't look like that's a huge deal in terms of wind. The Friday system doesn't look that significant. But now we're going to get into Sunday and we're going to see what happens. This one might have a bit more of that atmospheric river component to it. So if you track where this, you can see where the high went. The high nudged down to the south, and then that allows all of this wind right here to funnel moisture directly into California. And it's a pretty wide area right there where you see some of those gusty winds. So that's going to be pushing in a lot of moisture into California. Looks like windier conditions as well than the first system. We click up here, it's 30 to 40 mile per hour gusts, but then you're also seeing it in parts of the Bay Area. And then early Monday morning, and then it seems to start to taper off throughout the day Monday. So that's pretty interesting. I'm glad we looked at that map right there. It just shows so that this could have a little atmospheric river component to it. So just to summarize, before I get into more like California water, let's just look at these CA rain totals one more time. And I'll try to do the quick summary of everything that we've learned so far. So there's the first system, there's the second system. So it looks like the first one might see some light to moderate rain starting Friday morning, but it looks like the real front arrives Friday late afternoon into Friday evening. And then that's where you have some moderate rainfall. Decent totals with that first system, but not seeing any warnings pop up just yet. The rain continues Saturday, but it looks like it's tapering off throughout the day Saturday. And then the larger of the two storms is going to be moving in Sunday afternoon into Sunday evening. That one looks to bring potentially multiple inches of rainfall to not only Northern California, but now Southern California. And then potentially multiple feet of snow up to the Sierra as well. So this is all good news because technically we are below average in terms of our rainfall at this season, or at this part in the season. What I want to do first is figure out if these are atmospheric rivers or if there is an atmospheric river forecast. So I'm going to try to remember what the name of the forecast center is. I think it's Center for California Water CW3? I forget. Atmospheric River CW3. Something like that. Yeah, there it is. Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes. That's the word I couldn't remember right there. Atmospheric River forecasts. So let's see what's going on here. Sometimes there's almost so much information that it's hard to know what to look at. Yeah, there's lots of charts on here, but I'm not exactly sure what is the most important thing that we need to see. Yeah, maybe I'll poke around on this website more on my own time. In the meantime, we can go with something that I actually do understand. I want to see where we're at this point in the year for precipitation. So that's last 7 days, last 30 days. That's not as important as where we are in terms of our rainfall this year. So right off the bat, first thing I noticed, the whole southeastern portion of California is in the red, which is well below average in terms of rainfall. So yellow is going to be slightly below average, green is slightly above average, and most of the state looks to be in the orange or the red, which means below average in terms of rainfall. So this is quite a change from where we were last year at this time when almost the entire state was above average in terms of rainfall. Then if we look at some exact numbers here, the column you want to look at is this one, percent of normal. And you're seeing a lot of double digits in there. So for example, San Francisco, 82% of normal. Salinas, 62% of normal. And what about LA? LA, 76% of normal for our rainfall. And then that might make you start to think about our reservoirs. Now what you're going to be looking at here is you can almost think of this bar as the reservoir. The yellow represents how much it could hold, so that's its total capacity. The blue, it's almost like if you had a beaker, and the blue represents the water in the beaker, which tells you how full the reservoir is. But maybe what's most interesting is to compare the blue with the green, because that's comparing where we are right now with the historical average. So let's look at Shasta. That is 70% of our total capacity. So where that blue is compared to where the blue could be. But we're 112% of our historical average. So that's actually, we're doing, I'd say, better than normal. So even though our rainfall has been below average this year, we picked up so much rain last year, makes me believe that we had a little extra in the tank to get us through so far. What about Folsom? 50% of average, or 50% capacity, 112% of average. San Luis, I might actually go look at San Luis Reservoir for myself tomorrow. That one's 59% of capacity and 86% of the historical average. So that's a little below average. Sonoma, above average. I would say I'm not seeing anything too concerning at this point. Hopefully I'm going to be able to talk to a water expert tomorrow, though. I'm putting together a story for the news. And the main idea is just how are we doing in terms of water, because I know we're below average this year, but did we pick up so much last year that it doesn't really matter what happens this year? Or are we already getting into the danger zone in terms of some of our water? But I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of reservoirs, especially some of the bigger ones, that are above the historical average. So I don't know. That seems like some good news to me. Now, where things might get a little more concerning is when we look at the season snowfall totals. So annual average snowfall total was 400 plus inches. Snowfall is measured from the first snowstorm until closing day. Now this timeline goes kind of backwards in time. So this is going to be 2014, 2015. That was a terrible snow year. They picked up 120 inches. Then let's go more recent. The tallest bar here, so just breaking it down, you got your time or your years on the bottom. And then the reason these are color coded, that's by month. So blue is November, red is December, orange is January, purple is March. Season total last year was 685 inches, at least for this site. So compare that to the 400 that they usually get. So last year we had a ton. I'm sure that helped our reservoir levels a lot as well. But now look at where we are this year. So this year we're actually in it looks like we started off slower than that bad year in 2014, 2015, but it looks like we've had a better January. So the orange bar than they had in 2014 and 2015. But At this point, it looks like that's our lowest bar. Obviously, we're not through the whole season yet, but we're really going to need a lot to fall in February and March in order to make up the difference of what we haven't picked up so far. So let's take last year, for example. They picked up 130 in February, 160 in March. Let's just call that 300. If we were to do that, right now we're at 87. So we would have to have some really good February and March totals, as good as it was last year, in order to get us just barely below average for the entire season. However, we do have those systems that we're looking at in the models coming through over the next few days, so maybe that'll help bump up these numbers a little bit before we get into February or March. But it is interesting that we've only, at this site, it's only 87 inches. That's quite a drop from where we were at this time last year, where in January we had picked up 179. Now, one other way to see that is this map right here. So red is going to be max snowpack. The blue line is going to be the minimum snowpack, or the skinny blue line. That light blue color is going to be your average snowpack, and then the thick blue line is going to be where we are right now. So Northern Sierra, it looks like we're below average and actually pretty close to the minimum. In Central Sierra, we're at least above the minimum, but we're still below average. If we were average, this blue line would be right there, but instead we're right there. So below average. South or Southern Sierra, that's where we're pretty close to the minimum right there. Well below the max. I wonder if the max was last year. I think it says state, yeah, pretty close to the minimum. Now, I guess the max was 1982, 1983. So, yeah, that could be some cause for concern right there. And then, yeah, I don't think we need to go through all the river levels. I wasn't seeing anything too interesting there in the past. Alrighty, so that's a lot of information, but we covered a lot. So basically, storm moving in Friday, storm moving in Sunday. Sunday looks to be the bigger of the two storms. Right now, we are below average in terms of rainfall. This light is just like blaring in my eyes. This was too long of a live stream with too much reading. So right now, we're below average in terms of rain and snow, but we have multiple storms on the way. And I mean, at first glance, our reservoirs, although I don't know, we are in the middle of the wet season. Maybe these should be a bit higher, but I guess maybe that's what I'll find out talking to hopefully a water expert tomorrow. And I'll definitely report back here based on what I find. But yeah, storm Friday. And I think the one to really watch is going to be what happens on Sunday. I'd say the biggest update in this video compared to yesterday's video is that we saw the numbers jump up a bunch for especially Southern California with that Sunday storm. With that being said, timing and totals will definitely still change, so we'll continue to watch this every single day until these storms actually unfold to hopefully stay prepared. Right now, Friday doesn't look too serious, not seeing any warnings pop up yet, but yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. So hopefully you learned something throughout the course of this video, and thanks for watching.